Great. Tonia, hey,
And we are live.
We are live
Tony,
now. Hi.
how you going?
I'm fantastically good for a Thursday morning. I love Thursday mornings with you, Tonia. Now, we've just had a really good chat. Tonia and I have agreed to go, we're going to do this live from now on. So we're going to do a Facebook live feed, which is going to be really good. I don't know what we're going to talk about. We're going to use Tonia's philosophy on let's see what the universe brings in. One problem is that I'm a control freak and I'll try to control the conversation. And this is basically what I'm doing right now. And I hate myself as I'm doing it. Tonia, over to you. How are you, hon?
Good. How are you?
Very, very good.
No, you don't hate yourself. You're doing a great job. Somebody has to do it. And as we know, you like to take control, and I'm happy to just roll with that. So we have a good combination, don't we?
Yeah. I just feel my popularity going through the roof right now.
Hey, that's what it's all about.
I know.
So we're the first of the month today. First of August.
Now.
Amazing.
I know. You being the psychic cowgirl, what's that mean for us from a, let's say, a planetary or a, what's that thing called, star sign sort of thing? Because you're into that kind of stuff.
We've got massive stuff around us at the moment, and it's creating a lot of turmoil, which is crazy. And for a lot of people, they're really stepping into being pushed out of their comfort zone majorly. And there's lots and lots of questions around. It's like we're the 1st of August now. So the moon was last night, but it's almost like, well, my theory on it is, right, and I always follow the direction I get with readings. So I will do a run of readings and I'll have a similar connotation. And that's usually how I detect energies, even more so than following necessarily, straight down the line of the planets and moon and things. This year's been major for people to unpack their shit, to release what no longer serves them, to be pushed out of their comfort zone to make decisions based on their future and where they're going. So for a lot of people that have made that jump, that have followed the lead of the signs that have been around them, which has been massive amount of signs, there's a lot of them that have jumped out of their comfort zone, and they're out at sea at the moment and they're swimming. And for those that have embraced it, they can see the light. And it's almost like they can see the big picture, and they're quite comfy in the knowledge that they've done the right thing and they can see the direction they're going in. For some others that have been a little bit harder to embrace change and see it as an opportunity, that might be sort of still sitting in seeing it as something totally, how can you put it, shattering, or looking at it from, I suppose, what they've had to go through, which is totally fair enough. They might feel like they're treading water at the moment, and that's where at the moment the energies are really pushing. So for those treading water, they're feeling like sink or swim.
Yeah, that's right. So we're coming into, so this has been happening all year, where it's get rid of stuff that's not serving a purpose. But this month here in particular is saying, hey, we're going to give you a really strong push, and if you're not going to jump on board with that, then you're going to really sink right here. Is that basically what we're saying?
Yeah, when I say sink, I mean, I'm not a prophet of doom, and I don't believe in creating fear around decisions.
That's exactly what you were doing, just delivering the bad news for people who want to sit on the couch and watch Netflix and are content with life.
With their dog, and then go, can I meet a perfect partner? Does it sound familiar?
Yes, I just need to go. No, but it is. I mean, like, life's all about growth, right? So what you're saying is this is a growth opportunity to get up off your ass and do whatever you're meant to be. Is that pretty much
it? Quit the bullshit excuses, and that's what I've got on one of my business cards. I've done 33 individual affirmations that are all on my business cards, and I've put them in my words. So there's many of them that say, get off your ass, quit the bullshit excuses, and, start to take note.
But Tonia, my bullshit excuses have served me so well for 45 years of my life. Why am I going to give these up? I've never achieved anything, so I think these are great to hold on to.
Well, you could look at it like, I'm 45. It's kind of, now am I going to bring in those things that I really, are high on my value list, which is for you, family, and relationships, and
Oh,
someone to
100%.
enjoy the ride, with you. Because, and it's not to say, look, some people travel solo, and that's cool too. Like, I'm really down with. I love my own time. I love to be on my own, and I don't have a problem if I have a course or something I want to do. I'm happy to go there, rock up on my own. I don't know anyone, meet different people. I love all of that. So
Yeah,
it's
but you're
certainly not to
awesome
say
like
that's
that
for
too.
everybody.
You actually, you have people gravitate towards you because you're such a beautiful person. Like, everybody's want to hang with you. So if I was you, I'd hang out on my own too, because mate, you're like the
Thanks,
chip.
Tony. I'll pay you later.
Yeah, you're like the chip, and all these seagulls just come flocking. They want to hang out with the chip. They want a piece of you, is what I'm saying. I do the same as well.
Thank you. I like that.
Yeah, but it's really interesting. It's this year for me has actually been everything that you've been saying, and mentors that I've picked up, and even women that I've attracted. Are you familiar with disc profiling?
No.
Okay, so then there's 4 different characteristics that come out, and it's a great tool that I use it for communication amongst leaders. So you've got disc where, D, where you're going to be dominant, a decision maker, you're quick to the point, you're assertive. Then you've got eyes, and eyes are, I'm an eye. I want to hang out with people. I like the story. I want people to get along. Right, and then there's an S and a C without going into it. So I'm primarily an I, where I've got good ideas, but I don't action them. And then, so the people I've attracted into my life this year have been Ds, where they're going, Tony, just do it. Just, great story, just get to it and do it. And it's amazing. I have actually taken that on board. So you're quite right. This year has been a year of clearing stuff up and moving forward a lot more. And I'm very slow and very cautious to take things on board straight away. So somebody will go, oh, Tony, you've got potential to do this and that. And my ego will go, yes, I've got this potential. But I don't do anything. Now I've got people saying, do it, or I don't want to hang out with you, basically, right? Because you're wasting my time. And I think,
yes.
Now there's 2 ways I can take that. I can take that as in they're rude, or I go, oh shit, you know what? They've got a really good point. I need to lift my game. And I have done that. So I wonder if other people are going through that as well, where they're going, they've noticed the shift and they've got to really step it up this year and just become whoever they want to be, or their best version of themselves. I mean, like, you talk about mantras. I've got one written. I'm looking up mine. My mantra is here: the universe rewards action. And I've got baby written at the end of it because I like to make it cool. Yeah, the universe rewards action, baby. Yeah. So I'm more about actioning stuff. So it's quite interesting that you bring that up. And you've said it's in the stuff. You're going.
And that's a really important point, because that's what I was drawn to with doing my cards. So I put it in my words. I put a few swear words in there because we need to be shocked into action sometimes.
Yeah.
We need to be shocked. People will read the cards and they go, oh, and then it's like it hits them in the face.
Yeah,
you look at another great example of that is Tony Robbins.
Yes.
And his mantra. Now, he'll put the swear words in to shock people into action. And he's the first one to put his hand up and say, I do that for a purpose.
Yeah, I like that already. I can relate to it.
Yeah. So, and that's what I feel like. Because we want to stay safe. As humans, we want to stay safe. We want to stay within that parameter of comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, comfort and growth just don't work together.
No, they don't. They're at polar opposites, aren't they? They really, really are. So here you go. Here's a question for you, Ton. What are you getting pushed towards?
I'm getting pushed to step up, and it's more or less for me creating that big picture and stepping into it more. So I've been setting dates for shows.
I thought you were married.
For for my live shows, Tony.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you said and dates. I go, what are you going on dates for? Like, come on.
That's funny. Oh God, I couldn't even imagine anything like worse. But anyway, so setting dates for workshops, creating workshops. I've been drawn to create new workshops. I love to be innovative. I couldn't think of the word. Oh,
innovative. Yes,
I need to work on that one. Yeah, I love being innovative, and so to me, it's about putting things out there that are different.
Yeah, nice. Okay, that's really cool. And I'm in the same boat. You know what I want to bring up with you? I've actually been quite blessed. This is a topic that I want to bring up with you today. And one of the things I do is I work with a mental health group. It's a great group. It's called Los Motos. And, you know, our common thread is we ride motorbikes. And what I'll go out there and we get a bunch of guys, we'll go out for a ride or we'll have a night out and we'll just I'll facilitate conversations or we'll get a speaker to come in. And we talk about things that matter, like, you know, how do we express our emotions? You know, how do we actually navigate our way through a conversation when somebody's going through a hard time through mental health? My question for you, Tonia, being the psychic cowgirl, and you're bloody brilliant in this, is this the first time in time, as we know it, where men have asked to actually become more vulnerable and speak up about their emotions? Because up until now, we've been just told to, you know, just toughen up, get on with it. You're a survivor. You've got to fight for your family. Weakness is or being vulnerable is a weakness and all that. But now we've got a big shift in today's society. Why and how do you see this?
Well, it's funny that you say it because I felt this week we've had the signs to address this. This is what I find is fascinating with the way spirit manifesting.
I'm not controlling this conversation. This is from the universe, right, Tonia?
Right. So this week, this week for me, we held a women's group on Sunday. We had 18 like-minded women come together and reconnect. Amazing. Okay. And I just went, men need to be doing this. Just because it was that reconnection. Now, this week we had the full Monty on television. I was going to message you and say, are you watching that?
Oh, that'd be great.
Raising awareness for men with prostate cancer and identifying things like that. So it was like a real, and what I loved about the full Monty was a group of men that really didn't know each other very well coming together and then actually having to do a strip and, you know, strip down to nothing, which was really raw. And you got to see these men, you know, they showed them going to have a dinner together and cooking steak, and you know, they were all in the moment, right? And you could see them all blossoming, and they all supported each other. Now, to move on from that was Peter Hillier sharing the story about the suicide of the amazing comedian. Now, I can't think of his name offhand, but you would probably have known of him. About 11 years ago, he passed away through suicide. And that brings up the whole
Robin Williams?
Suicide. No, this is an Australian guy who did I'm pretty sure he was on radio and he also did some stand-up. You'll know him once you hear the name.
Yeah, once you hear the name, It's just sad that people do take their own lives, yeah. Sorry. Okay.
It is, and it's a massive epidemic. And I know with the work I do, it is constant. You are constantly hearing stories. And if you look on the project's profile on that story, the amount of comments of people that it's touched because they've experienced losing someone through suicide, and the male percentage of that's massive. So we need to invoke change. And the big message.
Why now, Tonia? Why now?
Because enough. I think because enough is enough. We're looking at the mental health issue is a result directly of these men not being able to communicate. And I know I only probably cover 5% of my clients are men. I would love to read for more guys because I just find that they're great. I love them because most of the time they're fairly skeptical, which is great. But I love the vulnerability in them to be able to take on board insights and things. And it's almost like with most of them that I read for, I give them permission they don't have to be the one to take all the responsibility. They don't have to be the one to be the tough guy. They're allowed to show the rawness and the realness of themselves. And, you know, I do get that message a bit for women as well, but I find for most of the men that come through, that is a real turning point for them. You can just see the look in their eyes like, oh, you know, I can allow myself to be who I am. Who I am is okay, you know. And I think men miss it because as women we collect together and talk all the time, whereas men just don't. The conversation needs to be had.
Yeah, look, and I think it's something that we've had since we were kids, the way that we communicate. I mean, like, you know, I remember going to a workshop once, a men's mental health workshop, and the facilitator for it asked a really good question. He goes, you know, when you were a little boy, what kind of toys did you have? And basically we had cars, trucks, shovels, hammers, and everything like that. So we were either going to build stuff or blow stuff up. And if we had little like toy figurines, they were like G.I. Joes or they were the Hulk, and they were either going to kill each other or blow something up together. So there was a common thing where the only talking they did was like, how do we stuff shit up? Whereas little girls, you girls would have dolls and they would talk it to each other. They'd talk about problems and what mummy's going to do. And so it's in your DNA from the get-go. And then now we're asking, now for some reason, I don't understand this point in time, why there's a shift between masculinity and femininity. And they're sort of like, it feels like they're sort of coming together. Am I correct in assuming that more so nowadays than ever before in time? Or has this happened before?
We've all become more, I think we're becoming more sensitive, and I think we're becoming more aware. And I think even I see a lot with this generation coming through. We've got a bunch of sensitive, they're not prepared to follow the same path and the same stories that the generations before had. So we have had a massive shift, like the awareness now. And once you become aware, you can't not do anything about it. And I think that's a really big thing.
Yeah,
is people are aware.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what you hit on there is really interesting is sharing stories. I think our stories are going to change because being a male, our stories, like if I think about my dad's stories, they were like, Dad was always a freaking hero at the end of it. He did fuck all though. But like, it was like, you know, there was a tragedy and the man always came out, was great. And Mum was never mentioned. She was, if there was any mention, I was like, and then your mother brought me a sandwich and a cup of coffee. Like, that was her role in the whole hero story. Right.
Yep.
But I think that's true. So these are the stories that get handed down, right? And I think stories are starting to change. And I notice with our guys, with the groups that I hang out with, we're starting to not be the hero in the story. We're starting to be the vulnerable character. You know what? I went in with this and I stuffed up. I basically stuffed up and I didn't know how to get around it. And this is where the conversation is starting to happen, which is for a male, for most males, we find this quite difficult. And this is how special we are as guys. We need a special group to do this. We can't just go out to a cafe. But it is happening and it does feel really good. But it's giving us a different sort of, I suppose, energy as well, where we are getting more in touch with our feelings. We are actually becoming more human beings, I suppose, instead of being these robots that just have to produce stuff, which is quite a nice thing to say. But how would you, I mean, like, and I agree, I think more guys should come to you. How would you open up a male, I suppose, for them to become more vulnerable, not only with themselves, but with others?
For the most part, you know what I find really, and again, this is just my experience. I'm not an expert in the field by any means, but I find when someone gives you permission, who isn't family, who isn't related to you, who has no other connection, but can come along, have a conversation with you and almost hold space for you to be in allowance of who you are, you can't help but feel opened. And even if they walk away and they don't necessarily, how can you put it? They might walk away and think, oh, that was a bit, you know, they might think that was a bit strange or whatever thing is in their mind. What's happened is I've created an awareness.
Yeah.
And I had this feedback. Actually, it was interesting the other day. I read for a girl's partner. So anyway, I read for her and her partner, and she said, he said, yeah, it was all good. Like he didn't open up a lot about the reading, which is not uncommon.
Yep.
But he more or less said, yeah, it was all right, and off he went and did whatever. But what she noticed, she said the shift in him has been phenomenal. He's actually now stepping into his personal power. And one of the biggest messages...
That's quite nice, yeah.
Yeah. One of the biggest messages for him was he had it all within him, but the self-doubt was stopping him stepping up. And I just showed him, I said, look, this is what I see. This is you. And I said, and with guys, you know, specifically, is I will then come out with, I'll see exactly what's going on around. So I'm really specific with it so that they're kind of like, oh, wow, you know, because I need to capture that. Yeah, otherwise, I'm a chick here sitting here talking crap.
Yeah, no, you've hit a nail on the head. You really have. Look, one of the biggest things I think for me personally as a male is self-doubt. And I think a lot of guys do have self-doubt. and we doubt ourselves in relationships. We're thinking like, you know, who are we? How do we act? Do we become that loving partner? Do we become that firm, strong partner, that archetype that goes out there and saves the family? So we really do doubt ourselves quite a lot. And also, like, the thing that makes it easier is work. If you're at work and you've got a position at work, or if you've got your own business, then you know what, you've got no self-doubt, you know where you're going to. But in relationships is where it's coming up a lot. Now, you know what I want to ask, Tonia, because, and I'm going to hit down this one here, and I think it's quite important. We talked about it before, was suicides in general. From a psychic's point of view, you're sitting down there with a male and they're going through depression. Two things I'm going to ask you is, A, do you know if they're having thoughts of suicide? And the second part to this question is suicide a choice, or is it written in your path? That's the path you're going to go down.
I don't always get necessarily, when I connect with somebody for a reading, I will get that there's stuff going on in their head, you know, and usually that's what spirits show me. I always, when I connect, I suppose I kind of set the intention with spirit to filter out anything that's negative or anything that I can't control, because at the end of the day, you know, it's our own path to walk our life, and to me, I'm there to assist and guide, not to kind of connect in with anything that's and I feel like something like suicide, I'm not a counsellor, so I'm not equipped to unpack anything around that.
Yeah,
so
but people are going to perceive you that way, Tonia. People will come to you as a counsellor because they think you've got this insight to a world or a realm that they haven't got access to. That's the perception. Yeah.
Well, I do make that clear that I'm not, because, you know, you've got to take responsibility as someone that connects for people. And if you're exposing vulnerability and that person is then to finish the session, because, you know, you've got to remember it's an hour session with them and they walk away, I take responsibility for how they leave.
Yeah, for sure.
So I have to be really mindful of that.
And that's a good way, like just being mindful of what information you're going to give them, that you don't want to steer them down a path where it's not. So is suicide a choice?
Look, what I'm shown, and again, this is my version of it. You can. Everyone has a different interpretation. I feel that our life is predestined. I feel we do choose our parents. I feel we do come into this life with lessons to learn, and that's why we often get the lesson over and over and over. And you often hear people say, I want to learn the lesson in this lifetime so I don't come back again and have to learn it again. Now, I don't believe that's just from your mind. I believe that that's from some innate knowing that we are here to learn. I feel like there are exit points. So to me, it's like you have your life, there might be exit points without options.
Yeah, sure. But that's a nice way of putting it too, Tonia. And I suppose the reason I asked that for is because there's going to be somebody who's going to listen to this, and we've all been affected and touched by somebody who has committed suicide, or known of somebody who has been affected or impacted by somebody who's committed suicide. And I think the biggest thing, the question we ask all the time is, why? Why didn't I know? Why couldn't I have prevented it? And a million questions go on. And I think the whole thing is, you know, especially if they spoke to somebody like you, a person who was down and out, especially a male, at least they could have a chat to you and get stuff out, and you could sound like, you know, give them some optimism, some spiritual optimism on what options they have, which is super cool.
And even tools, you know, like you and I've discussed. Like the other week we were talking about affirmations and how powerful they can be. And there's not to take away that element that there is the chemical imbalance that creates a lot of this. And I know through being touched with mental health myself through family that you know, it gets to the point where you speak to a lot of those going through mental health that they just feel like, you know, do I have to live the rest of my life with this, you know, burden? And
that's a good question, Tonia. That is such a bloody good question. That. Yeah. Look, the only, and don't shoot me down for this. You know when you're about to say stuff and the spirits say to you, don't say it because it's really, really bad? I'm getting those warnings right now. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Say it. I've heard this, like, being a therapist for God knows almost 2 decades now, is I have men come in and their wives will go through menopause. And they always say, they go, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. And I don't know if I want to put up with with this any longer. And so it was building strategy. I know. I just lie, Tony.
No,
lie.
I reckon it would be horrendous. Anything to do with hormones is
Yeah.
absolutely horrendous. But can I also say, I have been witness to, and I do believe men go through a similar kind of menopause. And this is where you get that midlife crisis.
Yep.
You know, because it's like there is that questioning. And I think everybody comes to middle age and goes, why am I here? What am I doing?
Yeah, sure.
Where is my
Actually,
life?
yeah. I've asked myself that question many a times, and I'm sure you have as well. But let's go back to, if you've got somebody who is dealing with a person who's going through a mental health issue, how do you deal with it? And what are some strategies or what are some tools that you can help people out?
Well,
Because it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. To me, you need to share with others that have experienced it. You honestly can't beat somebody who's been in the same boat, because one, you can take on board what they're saying and know that it's credible and it's real. It's not somebody sitting there telling you how you should feel and how it should be without any experience. So I think the first thing is, and that's why I think support groups are so wonderful, because you need to connect with others. And it's almost like, again, somebody that's not family, not related to you, that is able to come from a place of, I understand, this is what I've gone through. You can share with that person. It's not your family. You don't feel judged. You don't feel that you have to censor what you say. So I think for some people it's important to be able to be all in, warts and all, to say this really sucks.
Yeah,
not
sure.
only for that poor person going through it, but the family. It sucks for everyone. And to help, I feel the best thing is to be able to share with others, and know you're not alone is a really big thing.
Oh, Tonia, you've hit the nail on the head. And I think that's half the battle, isn't it? Because I think all of us think, geez, it's only me. And then what you're saying is normalize it. Get out there and talk to others and share that. And that's why these share groups that you put on and then that I put on as well, they're beautiful to be a part of. And we're really getting to some vulnerable bits and pieces of information that we should get. And once it's off your chest, you think, geez, that was easy. Why don't I do this more often?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I think. And that's what I think for men as well. And that's what I notice when I do a reading, is it's important for them to be able to just let it out.
Yeah. But it's finding a place to do it. That's the important thing as well.
And I would love to, further down the track or at some point, I would love to, if you get these groups going, if there's an opportunity to be able to share insights from a female's point of view, I'd love to do that.
Tonia, I have thought about this so many times, so I'm going to take you up on that offer, because that would be so super cool.
I'd love to.
Yeah, because I think that's so important for guys to do that. And I'd actually even, expanding on from that, I'd love to have groups where we have just, whether it's guys or girls, I don't care what it is, but in a room, just being vulnerable and talking about, from a male's perspective, and then from just a human being's perspective, like as humans, what do we struggle with? Because I think we can bridge the gap really quick. So I'm going to take you up on that. Yeah, absolutely. You'd be fantastic.
I'd love to.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
I think for men need to, it's almost like we need to get groups together.
Yep.
And that camaraderie and that feeling of support will be the change.
Yes.
But it really does need to happen. And I feel if if it was put out there, this is what I'm offering, group space for men. What we did on Sundays, we offered a retreat. And so within that retreat, we came up to the farm. The ladies were able to connect with nature. We mixed it up a little bit. So it was fun as well, and we identified strategies to bring in, things we want in our life. We released stuff that we didn't no longer wanted. And we had the ceremonial fire burning and it was fun, and I think that was something that came to me during that process. I thought we have to do this for there has to be a male, but I feel like for men, they would probably want the male leadership to do this.
Yeah, look, it sounds like there was a lot of cups of tea and flowers being thrown around at you one time.
Oh, no, not really. No.
I just can't picture a bunch of guys doing that.
But I think, yeah, exactly. No, I think with blokes, it needs to be a beer around the fire.
Yeah, or a motorbike ride. That's what we do. We normally do.
Mm.
Look, when I do the men's health groups, I try to avoid having beer or alcohol. Not that I'm opposed
Yeah,
to it, only because I don't want it to be that vice. But you're right. You know, 1 or 2 beers is fine. Have a chat.
absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know, sit around a
Just to feel
campfire.
relaxed.
Yeah,
I think to get into that, you know, hey, we're blokes and we can, you know, we can feel relaxed.
I
That's
know.
more so, like you say, nothing that you certainly don't want them getting intoxicated.
No, it's
but
like,
but
yeah, let's go get smashed and talk
we'll
about
really get
shit.
some reviews.
Yeah, it's like, let's just bag the shit out of our partners. That would be so healthy right now. You know, and I've always said,
So yeah, but I think it's needed, and I think now is the time.
yeah,
And if it was just if the door was open to that, I believe there'd be volumes
yeah.
lining up.
I think I'm pretty excited where life's going at the moment. I think men and women coming together and actually, I think what we're going to do is actually perceive each other as equals, as we should, but also admire the skill sets that we come in with. So, you know, I talk about women in leadership and how women should be empowered. And I think there's a big place for that because they have a stronger emotional intelligence where we've got more intellectual intelligence as males. So we'll problem solve
But
and all that. But a female will go, hold on, so
exactly.
who's that impacting? How do we grow a team? How do we do that? I think the two of them brought together is exactly what happens in family life. Really, you've got a mum and a dad, and we're seeing it now on a global scale.
I
How to
agree.
bring that.
I
Yeah, so
agree.
I'm excited where the world's going. And I think for guys, opening up, the more successful you're going to be as a male is the more vulnerable and open you can be with your emotions. And what I'd like to have a chat with you next time, Tonia, is where do we draw the line on being vulnerable? I don't know when we're going to bring that because the universe has to actually allow us to open up that one. So, but where do we draw the
Absolutely.
line for how vulnerable do we get? Like when is it not perceived as a whinge, but actually a legitimate conversation of this is how I feel and these are the effects of it. So, but that'll be something for later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think that's again sitting in your personal power and seeing what feels comfortable for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Ton, I've absolutely loved today's chat. Now, let's have a look. What have you got coming up in your wonderful world? Have you got workshops coming up? Are you working on anything? What are you doing?
What am I doing? I'm in the midst of a country workshop, so just setting that up and finding a venue. I've got some beautiful souls that I met a few weeks ago that are happy to help me promote it because it's really
Fantastic.
important. You know, when you're doing this kind of work, promotion's a key thing. And when I want to hit country areas, I can market all day on Facebook and places like that, but it just doesn't capture, you know, enough of the I suppose the broader community in that area. So I'm finding now that if I have a couple of key players that are happy to promote me and help spread the word, that's what works.
Oh, cool. Okay, so when are you proposing to have this date, and what's the outcome for this workshop?
Well, I'm actually this one's connecting to their I suppose their sixth sense or their psychic power that we all have, and also connecting with the limiting belief systems, like going back to, you know, breaking down what's holding us back.
Wow, that sounds really exciting. And when are you thinking of having this on?
I haven't set a date for sure yet because of the traveling aspect for us.
Yeah, will it be by the end of this
I've got to
year?
be aware of that.
What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we by okay, so
within the next couple of months. Yep. I'm at
okay.
Wagga. I'm coming up to Wagga for a expo in October.
Yep.
So that'll be really cool.
Nice.
But
Are you
and I've
doing
also
readings
got a
there?
show coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, nice. Yeah. And a show coming up?
So I might capture some males up there actually.
Actually, well, look, you know what? We're gonna pump this video out pretty much straight after we've done this. So I'll flip it over to you. You do your magic with where you're going to send it, and at least people can get informed on that. And then, like next week, will be a live feed. For me, what I've got coming up, I'm actually quite excited. I've been asked to do a TEDx talk.
Oh yes. When is that?
So that's coming up in November. So and it's TEDx Newtown. So it's a new community hub for TEDx. So I'm really honoured to be asked to come on board. I'm going to be talking about the importance of sharing and why we don't share. So they're the topics that so that's something I'm really, really passionate about. Tonight, I've got a stand-up comedy gig that I'm pretty excited about at the Mic in Hand. So I will
where is that? In Sydney?
Up in Sydney. So this one, I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty nervous about because Mic in Hand is one of the most prestigious comedy places that we have in Sydney, and it's been around for decades. And the comedians that are coming up are hard hitters. Like you've got Tommy Dean, who's been around for 20 years. he's a headliner and the MC, and there's a whole bunch of other guys that are semi-pros, if not professionals, and I'm like just new kid on the block. So really honoured to be on
Good
that one.
on you.
Hopefully I don't
Proximity
bomb.
is power.
I know.
No, you won't. Proximity is power. See, that's awesome.
It's got to be funny. All right, so Ton, let's do this live stream next week. So it's going to be super cool.
Yep.
And I'll see you next week. Hey.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye. All right. So.